Florida's governor just did something no state leader has ever done for a tennis player. As thousands of Filipino flags began appearing across Miami-Dade County, as hotels from Brickell to South Beach filled with fans who had traveled across oceans, Ron DeSantis stepped in personally to ensure that Alex Eala's homecoming would be unlike anything tennis has ever seen. But this wasn't just a photo op or a ceremonial handshake. Behind closed doors, the governor's office was coordinating with tournament organizers, law enforcement, and local Filipino community leaders to prepare for what officials are calling the largest single athlete mobilization in the tournament's history. And when Eala finally stepped off that plane, she walked into a reception that looked less like a tennis arrival and more like a head of state visit. The royal welcome wasn't just a metaphor, it was protocol. The call came 3 days before Alex Eala was scheduled to arrive in Miami. On the line was an aide from Florida Governor Ron DeSantis' office, connecting with Miami Open Tournament Director James Blake. The message was straightforward. The state was prepared to offer whatever resources necessary to accommodate the unprecedented influx of fans expected for the Filipina sensation. Blake, a former world number 4 and one of the most respected figures in American tennis, had already learned his lesson. Just months earlier at the Australian Open, Eala's match on Court 6 had drawn queues that wrapped around Melbourne Park, with security forced to escort her from the grounds as hundreds of fans were turned away. In Dubai, ticket sales had jumped 48% thanks to her presence, with tournament officials describing the demand as crazy and admitting their phones were running out of batteries from ticket requests. But this was different. This was Miami, home to one of the largest Filipino communities in the United States. According to census data, over 200,000 Filipinos reside in South Florida, with thousands more spread across the state, and they were all preparing to descend on the Hard Rock Stadium. Blake later told reporters about the governor's involvement. The state reached out directly. They wanted to make sure we were prepared for what they were seeing in the data. Hotel bookings, flight arrivals, everything pointing to numbers we've never seen for a single player. DeSantis' office coordinated with Miami-Dade County officials to ensure transportation, security, and crowd management plans were in place. Extra personnel were assigned to the stadium precinct, traffic patterns were reviewed, even the local Filipino consulate was brought into the planning loop. When Eala's flight touched down at Miami International Airport, she was met not by the usual tournament representative with a sign, but by a delegation that included state officials and community leaders. The message was clear. Florida was rolling out the red carpet. Alex Eala stepped off that plane expecting the usual routine: baggage claim, a waiting car, maybe a few fans with cameras. What she found instead stopped her in her tracks. Hundreds of Filipino fans had gathered at the airport, waving flags and holding signs that read, "Welcome home, Alex," and "Mabuhay ang Pinoy Pride." The crowd stretched through the arrivals hall, singing and chanting as security personnel formed a corridor to guide her through. Eala, visibly moved, stopped to greet as many fans as she could, signing autographs and posing for photos despite the exhaustion of international travel. Videos of the reception spread across social media within hours, with one fan commenting, "This isn't how you welcome an athlete, this is how you welcome a hero." But the airport was just the beginning. As her motorcade made its way toward Miami Beach, where she would be staying during the tournament, Eala spotted more flags lining the streets. Filipino families had gathered at intersections, waving and cheering as she passed. Restaurants in Filipino neighborhoods had hung banners reading, "Good luck, Alex," and "Proud to be Pinoy." The Eala effect, as tennis writer Chris Otto had dubbed it, was on full display, and Florida's governor had made sure the state was ready. Blake, speaking to Tennis Channel ahead of the tournament, confirmed that Eala would be playing on the biggest stage possible.
I think we're going to need them to be on center court because they have so many fans worldwide, and here it's going to feel like home matches for both of them, he said, referring to Eala and Brazilian rising star João Fonseca. He added, I feel like last year, this event, it was a little bit of a coming out party where she had some great results coming from a wildcard position as well. So I think the international interest in both of them is so high, and Miami being such a cultural melting pot with so much of the international flavor here. For Eala, the welcome was overwhelming. I always make it a point to be grateful, she has said repeatedly. Coming from where I come from, I've seen some serious poverty. I've seen serious struggle. Although I haven't lived through that struggle myself, I'm able to appreciate what I have. What she has now is a nation, and now a state, behind her.
The Miami Open holds a special place in Alex Eala's heart. It was here, 1 year ago, that a 19-year-old ranked number 140 in the world arrived as a wild-card qualifier and left as a global sensation. Her run through the 2025 draw read like a fairy tale. She took down Katie Volinets, then Jelena Ostapenko, a former French Open champion. She dispatched Madison Keys, a Grand Slam finalist. And then, in the quarterfinals, she faced world number 2 Iga Świątek and stunned her 6-2, 7-5. I think that Miami run has to be the highlight of my career so far, Eala recently told the Sit Down podcast. That's what put me on the map. Everything clicked after that. I look back at that moment and I just think, wow, it was insane. It's crazy to believe that actually happened. Her run ended in the semifinals against Jessica Pegula, but the damage was done. Eala had become the first Filipina to reach a WTA 1000 semifinal, the first to crack the top 100, and the proof that Philippine tennis could compete on the world's biggest stages. Now, 1 year later, she returns as a completely different player. Ranked number 29 in the world, a career high, and seeded 31st in the tournament, Eala enters the Miami Open with a first-round bye and a target on her back. But with that status comes pressure. Eala has 390 ranking points to defend from her 2025 semifinal run, points that will expire the moment the tournament begins. An early exit could see her ranking plummet back to the 50-60 range she occupied at the start of the year. It doesn't matter if I win the tournament in Miami or if I lose in the first round. I know I'm here and I'm here to stay, Eala said after her Indian Wells campaign. But the draw has set up a tantalizing possibility. In the third round, if both players win their opening matches, Eala could face Świątek once again, a rematch of that quarterfinal thriller. Świątek answered Eala's Miami win a month later at the Madrid Open, battling back from a set down to pull off a 4-6, 6-4, 6-2. As Eala prepared for her opening match, Miami transformed. Filipino flags appeared everywhere, on cars, on balconies, on shirts worn by fans walking through the city streets. Restaurants in the Filipino neighborhoods of Broward County reported record business. Hotels near the Hard Rock Stadium were booked solid. The phenomenon wasn't new. At the Australian Open in January, Eala's pre-tournament press conference drew 171,000 online viewers, dwarfing the 29,000 who tuned in for Coco Gauff and the 9,000 for world number 1 Aryna Sabalenka. Her matches on Court 6 caused such chaos that security had to form a human shield to escort her from the grounds. In Dubai, tournament director Salah Talak marveled at the numbers. She attracted a new demographic to the tennis, and the stadium was sold out for all her matches. People were desperately trying to get tickets, but they were all gone. We've never seen anything like it. Now, Miami was experiencing the same phenomenon. Tournament officials estimated that over 10,000 Filipino fans had traveled to South Florida specifically for Eala's matches. Some had flown from as far as California, Texas, even Canada. Others had driven from across the state, caravans of families packed into SUVs, flags waving from windows.
Martina Navratilova, the 18-time Grand Slam champion, had warned organizers after the Australian Open chaos. The organizers need to keep more in mind where the players are from and what the actual fan base is here. James Blake took that warning seriously. When asked about court assignments for Eala, he didn't hesitate. Yes, harking back last year when I learned my lesson, I think we're going to need them to be on center court because they have so many fans worldwide. Eala, for her part, remained humble despite the attention. After her Indian Wells run, she reflected on what the support meant to her. "It was so heartwarming," she said. "I think that's one of the things that makes a loss like today a little bit harder, because I know a lot of people were rooting for me." She felt that support throughout every match. "I felt so loved even when I was 5-2 down in the third. I still felt the love. So I'm really appreciative and super thankful."
The image of Alex Eala stepping off that plane to a crowd of hundreds, of Florida's governor personally ensuring her arrival, was treated with the gravity of a state visit, of tournament directors scrambling to put her on the biggest stages. It's more than just a feel-good story. It's proof that tennis is changing. For decades, the sport's center of gravity has been in Europe and North America, with occasional forays into Asia when a star like Li Na or Naomi Osaka emerged. But those stars, for all their brilliance, never generated the kind of organic, grassroots devotion that Eala has sparked. The difference is the diaspora. There are over 4 million Filipinos living in the United States, with hundreds of thousands in Florida alone. They are nurses, teachers, engineers, caregivers, hardworking people who have built lives far from home while carrying their culture with them, and for the first time, they have a tennis player to call their own. When players come from countries like the Philippines, the stadium feels like a Davis Cup venue, veteran referee Hani El Khafif observed during Eala's Dubai run. People are cheering for their country, not just for one player. That's what makes the Miami Open different. That's why Ron DeSantis stepped in. That's why James Blake is putting Eala on center court. Because this isn't just about tennis, it's about identity, it's about representation, it's about millions of people who finally see themselves reflected on a global stage. Eala understands this deeply. "I always make it a point to be grateful," she has said. "Coming from where I come from, I've seen some serious poverty, I've seen serious struggle. Although I haven't lived through that struggle myself, I'm able to appreciate what I have." What she has now is the weight of a nation and the support of a state. And as she steps onto center court at the Hard Rock Stadium, surrounded by thousands of flags, thousands of voices, thousands of hearts beating as one, she will carry that weight with grace, because that's what champions do. Alex Eala just received a welcome fit for royalty, and it wasn't by accident. Florida's governor stepped in personally to ensure that the 20-year-old Filipina sensation's arrival in Miami was treated with the gravity it deserved. From airport crowds to state coordination to center court guarantees, the message was clear. Alex Eala isn't just another player, she's a phenomenon. Now she returns to the tournament that changed everything, facing the pressure of defending 390 ranking points and the possibility of a rematch.